Just remember, the stuff presented by this creepy bear is from the Evolution 101 website, written by the Understanding Evolution team. Commentary by Rent-A-Friend2000. That's me!
Development is the process through which an embryo becomes an adult organism and eventually dies. Through development, an organism's genotype,
Editor's note: genetic information in the individual,
is expressed as a phenotype.
Editor's note: physical characteristics of the individual.
Exposing genes to the action of natural selection.
Anyone else find it morbid that they include death as a stage of development? This reminds me of an earlier chapter where they taught us how we can make a population of beetles evolve by stepping on a bunch of them. I guess that would be Origin of the Species by means of Doc Martens. But I digress.
Studies of development are important to evolutionary biology for several reasons. Explaining major evolutionary change. Changes in the genes controlling development can have major effects on the morphology of the adult organism. Because these effects are so significant, scientists suspect that changes in developmental genes have helped bring about large-scale evolutionary transformations. Developmental changes may help explain, for example, how some hoofed mammals evolved into ocean dwellers, how water plants invaded the land, and how small, armored invertebrates evolved wings.
The process of going from one cell to many millions of them, of many different kinds and many different locations, is like the space shuttle building itself from recycled car parts. If any of these instructions go wrong, you almost certainly lose the entire creature. The idea that a tweak here and a misspelling there could change the outcome by adding new features is a piece of hopeful optimism which no cheerleader in the NFL could hope to compete with, even with the help of prescription strength cappuccino. While I understand this path of reasoning for someone who already has an evolutionary bias, this is mainly the same logical fallacy made previously. They hope that errors will result in more genetic information. The problem is the most likely outcome with an error in the development is the death of an organism. Or, as they'd say, the development of the organism toward increasing entropy and molecular dissociation. The example they give below is one where the antennae of a fruit fly are replaced with legs. All this is another shuffling of pre-existing information. The fly already had genes for legs, but now he's lost the information to keep them off his face. I'm no PhD, but I can say with some confidence that if you wind up with legs on your face, you won't be saying, "What luck! Now I'll be able to run twice as fast!" You'd probably be saying, "Ah, there are legs on my face! There are legs on my face! There are legs on my face! What this proves is how much information is needed to even get a fruit fly to work properly. Information only comes from an intelligent source, and thus data like this cannot be used to show the likelihood of evolution, but shows clearly the need for an intelligent designer.
Mutations in the genes that control fruit fly development can cause major morphology changes, such as 2 pairs of wings instead of 1. Another developmental gene mutation can cause fruit flies to have legs where the antennae normally are, as shown in the fly on the right. Learning about evolutionary history. An organism's development may contain clues about its history that biologists can use to build evolutionary trees. Characters displayed by embryos such as these may help untangle patterns of relationship among the lineages.
For another spin till you puke, tilt-o-whirl circular reasoning piece of pseudoscience, I give you the law of biogenetics. This wonderful bit of fiction states that animals go through different stages before they are born or hatched, wherein they revisit their evolutionary history. Thus, every baby starts as a worm, becomes a fish, and develops through a reptile and finally mammal stages. But how worm-like are we in early development? Well, we're longer than we are wide. That's pretty much it. I would also argue that many people retain that feature for most of their lives, unless they develop my fondness for donuts. How fish-like are we before we're born? Well, check any biology textbook that teaches evolution, and you'll see that as a fetus we have gill slits. Seriously, go look through a few textbooks and you will see mention and sometimes drawings of these gill slits. The problem is those folds in the skin they point to are not used for respiration at any stage, and thus are not gills. They are not openings into the embryo, but merely folds in the skin and thus not slits. If they aren't gills, and they aren't slits, stop me if I'm going too fast here, then they aren't gill slits. It's worth noting that while they use the chart of fetuses and imply his work, they choose not to mention Ernst Haeckel. Could it be these guys did enough homework to discover that Haeckel, whose work is still found in biology textbooks all over the country to this day, was shown to be a fraud more than a century ago? While he did not admit to fraud, he did admit to taking artistic license to create images that could be used as evidence in support of evolution. The biggest difference between Haeckel's drawings and photographs like these is that in the photographs you can see how very quickly the embryos become distinguishably different, whereas Haeckel basically used the 1800s version of cut and paste instead of drawing each animal differently. For instance, to show how humans pass through the worm and fish stages, he simply chose not to draw the developing limbs. I don't think you need to be an embryologist to know that something with arms and legs isn't a worm or a fish. On the other hand, pretending that something doesn't have arms or legs doesn't make it a worm or a fish either. Picture yourself at a fancy restaurant. Here you are, sir, the catch of the day seafood special. What is this? I thought it would be salmon. Oh, it is a rare fish of the day. This is a squirrel with its legs removed. The chef has taken a little artistic license in preparing this evening's catch of the day. And I'm going to take some artistic license in leaving you a tip. I fart in your general direction.
Limiting evolutionary change. Developmental processes may constrain evolution, preventing certain characters from evolving in certain lineages. For example, development may help explain why there are no truly six-fingered tetrapods.
So, evolution has a feature which stops evolution from happening? You can get legs on your face, but not 6 fingers unless you're one of the villains from The Princess Bride? And no Ninja Turtles? Dude, evolution sucks! Join me next week for part 12. Yippee!